What's up everyone, this is CyberKnight 8610 and today we're going to do a top 10 list over my top 10 favorite Xyz monsters. Kind of like with the synchro list, this really isn't the easiest list to do because I started looking through the different Xyz monsters just like with synchros and you're like, oh, there's only, hundreds, so it's kind of difficult really. But remember, these are just my top 10 favorites, so obviously, everyone has their own opinion on this, and this isn't like the strongest Xyz monsters. We might do a list on that in the future, but yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Starting off with number 10, we have Divine Dragon Knight Felgren, which this card is just so awesome looking, first off. I remember being so happy to see that Felgren was actually brought back as a new monster. Of course, this being before the structure deck, he's like reborn as a knight, or I don't really know what the story is. I don't know if Felgren turns into a knight, or maybe a knight kills Felgren and wears him as armor. I don't know. Maybe it's like Skyrim rules where you're able to then, build armor out of the bones of your enemies. I have no idea really how the story's supposed to be, but this card is just so awesome looking. Of course, being a knight, I mean, obviously it had to be on this list, and that was kind of a, one of those things where just about any of the knight cards, you guys know I'm kind of a sucker for those kind of cards, but a really useful monster, rank 8s, of course, which I've been using a lot of lately too, so that might play a part into it, but it just has such an amazing effect that can protect itself and other monsters too, and I just think it's a really awesome card with artwork and effect too. But yeah, it's easily one of my favorites. Next up for number 9 on our list, we actually have a number monster, which is number 101 Silent Honor Arc. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised too this went higher up on my list. I went through a lot of different Xyz, so it was kind of tough not to put this a little bit higher, but I thought number 9 was actually a pretty good spot for it. Nowadays, of course, Castell is a little bit better, in terms of being playable, but this card was just so amazing when it first came out. It's still an amazing card to use because you're just able to take one of your opponent's monsters away, equip it to it as an Xyz material, and also it has another effect where it's basically you have to destroy it twice. So I've just always enjoyed using this card. I just think it looks cool because it's kind of like a futuristic spaceship-like thing, an arc, I guess, like it says in the name. But yeah, I just always thought it was one of the coolest looking numbers, had a really nice design to it, and a very useful effect too. And it's still one of those rank 4 monsters that I love to use even nowadays. And then next up for number 8 on our list, we have number S39, Utopia the Lightning. So yes, another number monster. Now I know some people were wondering, should I include number monsters on my Xyz list? Should I have a separate list for, numbers and then Xyz? But yeah, I went on ahead, I was actually pretty even on the number of monsters I chose. There's not as many on the list, even though we've had 2 back-to-back. And also, too, I kind of made an extra rule for myself to only choose one Utopia monster, which is actually kind of tough for me, because I really enjoyed using Utopia V and Victory as well. But the Lightning is just the most playable out of all of them. Being able to become a 5,000 attack monster like that, running over your opponent, I mean, this card can just end games for you, which is really cool. I mean, and what's really nice about it, too, is it gives people to run the original Utopia, then rank it up to S39, and then going into Lightning. So you can actually build it up, get those extra materials for it, and like I said, it can be a force to be reckoned with just with that destruction effect, and being able to be a 5,000 attack monster like that. So yeah, being able to win games, I feel like he's the one that should be chosen for this list. But yeah, again, it's still pretty hard not to choose V or Victory, so you can kind of make those honorable mentions too if you want to. And now moving on to number 7, we have Castell the Sky Blaster Musketeer. Of course, it had to be higher on the list than number 101, even though this isn't a competitive list. Again, this is more based off of just my favorites, whether it be nostalgia and other things too. But I just feel like Castell should be higher on this list anyway, because it's probably the rank 4 monster I use the most. Out of any deck, if it's possible to go for a rank 4, I use Castell, because it's just such an amazing card, and just being able to get rid of one of your opponent's monsters like that is just such an amazing thing, and can really just turn around the game for you. I mean, he's just a game-changing Xyz monster, and even if this was a top 10 strongest Xyz monster list, this card would still be high on that list. And now moving on to number 6, we have Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. This is another card that had to be on my list just because it's one of my favorite new Xyz monsters that we have now, being a rank 4, pretty easy to bring out. Not as common though as Castell, obviously, but if you're using a deck that uses a lot of rank 4 monsters, he's a card you're definitely going to want to have on your side. It's another one that can help you change games around, and it just looks amazing in the anime too. I mean, it's one of my favorite cards to see in the anime because it just looks so menacing and everything too. It just looks so awesome, and it's become one of my favorite Xyz monsters lately. And what I love about this card is just that it doesn't matter how strong your opponent's monster is, you're able to weaken that monster and then gain some of that attack for yourself and then just steamroll over their monsters. So it's just an amazing card to use, and like I said, it's one that can actually change games for you. And now moving on to number 5, we have another number monster for us, which is number 11, Big Eye. Of course, it was kind of tough not to have this one higher up on the list because it's just being such a tough card to go up against, because as soon as it's on the field, yeah, your monsters aren't going to be your monsters anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, this card is just amazing. It's basically sort of a snatch steal or change of heart type of monster, being able to take your opponent's monsters and use them for yourself. And it's just another card, again, that can just change games for you. And taking away your opponent's strongest monster is always something fun to do. Although it may not be so fun for your opponent, right? And of course, obviously, this is another one of the Xyz Monsters too. If this would have been a top 10 strongest list, this would definitely be one of the highest ones on the list, if not like almost number one. But yeah, being one of my favorites, I just love the way it's designed, its effect and everything too, and how people just didn't really pay attention to it at first and then realized, oh, we can bring out these rank 7s pretty easily, and then just take your opponent's monsters away. So I love to see this card go from a $10 card to 100 basically overnight and just get the respect it deserves. And it's just one of the most awesome Xyz Monsters out there. And it's one of those that really made it so that people noticed that Xyz Monsters were something that you actually had to use, and very powerful monsters at that. Moving on to number 4, we have Evil Swarm Xyz. Now this card is kind of debatable to be on a favorites list, to be very honest, because at first I didn't like this card, just because it would reset the whole field and you were just like, oh no. You could tell if there was about to be a rank 4 monster in the field, they were going to go for this and then just wipe out everything you set up. So it was not fun to go against, and it's still not fun to deal with, although now it's banned, so I guess we don't have to deal with it right now. I wonder if it might come back one of these days. But then, of course, when pendulums were introduced, I started liking this card a lot more, because it's like, yeah, go on ahead, pendulum summon all you got. Boom, destroy everything. It's basically everything that I said about Black Rose in my Synchro video is Xyz. It is the Black Rose for Xyz Monsters, just being able to reset the field. The reason it was banned was mainly because of pendulum monsters. And I know people are going to think I'm a monster for saying this, but I kind of want this card back just because of all the different pendulum decks out there. It's just hilarious to use against anything that involves pendulums, just being able to reset everything. And it's basically their kryptonite. Alright, now we're already to the top 3, so here we go. For number 3, we have Cyber Dragon Infinity. Now this is another one that I think is going to be on most people's favorites list, and this is one of my favorites mainly because it was more Cyber Dragon support. I really wasn't expecting anything else from Cyber Dragons, to be very honest. I mean, after the structure deck, which was kind of a shock in itself, I was thinking, oh cool, they got an Xyz monster, they got Nova. So that was really cool. But after that I was thinking, well, we're probably not going to see anything else from Cyber Dragons. And then we get this monster, which is basically one that can just take your opponent's monsters, equip it to itself, being able to negate anything, and also have pretty good stats on attack, and just getting stronger the more monsters it absorbs, you know, as materials. So this card is just so much fun to use against your opponent, and not so much fun for them, of course, but it's just one of my favorites just because, especially with things like Galaxy Soldier, it's so easy to bring this card out, and it's a game changer too. It's almost sort of like, I kind of compare it to a Xyz Quasar. You know, if Quasar was an Xyz monster, this would be the closest card to it, being able to negate things, and just being that card that everyone dreads to go against too. And of course, with it being compared to monsters like that, yeah, it is definitely one of the strongest Xyz monsters out there, and ridiculously easy to summon, like I said, especially with Galaxy Soldier. And next up we have my second favorite Xyz monster, and that is number 62, Galaxy Eyes Prime Photon Dragon. This card is so amazing. I mean, I love Galaxy Monsters, you guys know that, and all the different Xyz monsters they have are just really awesome, but if I had to choose, it has to be number 62. Just because this card, I mean, is just a freaking boss of an Xyz monster. 4,000 attack to start off with. And not only that, with its effect, the more Xyz monsters on the field, the better. This card just gets stronger and stronger, even being able to wipe out your opponent in just one attack, even if they have 8,000 life points. But yeah, with its attack and effect, it is easily one of the strongest Xyz monsters out there. Just watch out for those magic cylinders, because that can kind of ruin your day. But before we get to number 1, I want to go on ahead and read off my honorable mentions. So here we go. First off, we have Sacred Noble Knight of King Artorigus. This card was almost number 10. Like, it was really tough not to choose that as my number 10 monster. But you know what? You can pretty much just go on ahead and say it's number 11. We'll at least say that. But anyway, it's just an amazing card. It's one of the best artworks in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Just one of my favorite cards because of Noble Knight. Even though Noble Knights really never got the support that they deserved, I still wanted to give King Artorigus a mention on this list. And after that, Lavalval Chain. That was actually kind of a tough one not to have higher on the list. While this card is one of the best Xyz monsters, it's still not really one of my favorites. And like I said, if we're talking about strongest Xyz and some of the best Xyz monsters, it's definitely on that list. I mean, it's probably in the top 5 at least on that list. But to be honest, it was kind of tough to choose it as one of my favorites, even though it is a really awesome Xyz monster to use. Okay, to be honest, I'm kind of afraid to say this one. That is Dante Traveler or the Burning Abyss. So, yeah, I have a feeling people are going to come after me after saying that. This card, it's really awesome. It is definitely one of our best Xyz monsters out there. Don't get me wrong. But favorite-wise, I mean, again, when you're talking about a favorite list, you're going off nostalgia, the different decks you enjoyed using the most, just a lot of different factors on that. And really, I'm not too much into Burning Abyss. I mean, they are definitely one of those decks that deserve a lot of respect. They are one of the strongest decks out there that we've had, and they're still doing pretty well, even after getting hit a little bit on the ban list. I mean, Dante's still around. I'm still kind of surprised to see that. I think a lot of people were. But, yeah, I mean, it is an amazing card, but I really couldn't put it as one of my favorites. And next up, another one that I'm kind of afraid to say, and that is Mecha Phantom Beast Dragosack. Yeah, this is one of those that definitely deserves a lot of respect. Again, it was another one of those that kind of seemed to change a lot of things for Xyz Monsters. Like, they were getting even more respect after this card came out, and it's definitely an Xyz Monster you don't want to deal with. But I really couldn't put it as one of my favorites. Again, I guess it's kind of like with Dante and stuff too. It all boils down to what decks you use the most and what you enjoyed using. So really I didn't use Dracosack until a little bit later on, mainly with like Red Eyes and stuff. But for me, it was kind of tough to put it as one of my top 10 favorites. But again, it would be one of those that would be out of the top 10 strongest. And last but not least, we have Levier the Sea Dragon. This card being one of the first Xyz Monsters that we've had, and it's pretty much like what I talked about in the Synchro list. You know how like Goyo Guardian and Stardust were those kind of cards where people saw them, they're like, you know what, we should start using Synchro Monsters because they're actually very useful. And Levier was kind of that way for Xyz, where everyone started seeing Levier and they're like, you know what, we definitely need to start using Xyz Monsters now. It was kind of that turning point for a lot of people that were like, do we really need to use Xyz Monsters? And then of course after seeing what Levier can do, people definitely started picking up Xyz Monsters and using them. And now for our number one choice, and that is a Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. Now this one, it's a lot of nostalgia and just an amazing card. Like, I never would have expected an Xyz Monster for Red Eyes. So I remember being so happy when this was first announced. It has an amazing effect to being able to burn down your opponent like that, also being able to get a Red Eyes as well. And it's just such a useful card. It can be used in so many different decks that can go for rank 7 monsters. It's easily one of my favorites in terms of artwork and effect for Xyz, and it's just such an awesome card. And your opponent can actually end up accidentally using up all their life points just by activating cards if their life points are low enough after this. So yeah, it's just definitely one of my favorites to use, and easily my favorite Xyz Monster. But yeah, what do you guys think about this top 10 list? Again, it's kind of like the Synchro list. It's really tough to choose, too. So I want to know what you guys think. Tell me in the comments what your top 10 list would be if you had to choose out of all the different Xyz Monsters, or at least give me a top 5 list, because again, it's pretty hard to choose. And also, like I mentioned in this video, too, I think it kind of all goes down to what decks you use the most to what your favorite Xyz Monsters are going to be, because with Xyz, they're even a little bit different than Synchros and Fusions, where you can use just about any Xyz and any deck, because they can work the best in, like, everything. If it's possible, if you have that level of monster, you can go for that rank. So that's what makes it a little bit tougher to choose for Xyz, I feel like, than other types of monsters. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Of course, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh content. I'm planning some more different top 10 lists. I'm thinking probably a top 10 number list, as well as Fusions. I'd probably go with Fusions next, though, which is, yeah, there's going to be a lot of nostalgia on that list, so I can already tell you guys that. But yeah, just let me know in the comments what you guys think and what your top 10 list is again. As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and of course I will. Catch you guys later. See ya. Hope you guys have enjoyed my latest video. Be sure to subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos, as well as check out my other two channels, CyberKnight Games for Let's Plays, and also CyberKnight CCG for Card Fight Vanguard openings. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. See ya.